Good morning. The committee will come to order. Today, the committee will consider the fiscal year 2025 appropriations bills recommended by the Subcommittee on Energy and Water Development and related agencies, the Subcommittee on Defense, the Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education and related agencies. We are still working on a path forward on FSGG. We hope to be able to vote on that as well, and we'll be working on that. So I just would like all members to know at the top we'll be voting on 3 of the bills. We will come back and vote on the 4th as soon as we get an agreement on how we're going to move forward on that. With that, I will begin with some opening remarks. Next, the Vice Chair will give her opening remarks, and as soon as the opening remarks have concluded and everyone is here, I intend to begin voting on final passage of the 3 bills that I mentioned, the other one when we can get to an agreement. We have a number of other committees meeting this morning and a short window to have all of our members here, so I ask everyone to please be here as soon as possible so we can have full attendance and get the votes done by 10 o'clock. Following the 4 votes, we will move to the consideration of amendments to the Energy and Water Bill, the Defense Bill, the LHHS Bill, and the FSGG Bill when we have that ready to move forward. With that, I want to thank Senator Kennedy, who is my ranking member of the Energy and Water Subcommittee, Senator Tester and Collins for the Defense Subcommittee, who are the Defense Subcommittee and ranking member, Senators Baldwin and Capito, the LHHS Subcommittee Chair and ranking member, and Senators Van Hollen and Haggerty, the FSGG Subcommittee Chair and ranking member. Everyone has worked very hard to pull together their bills, and as this committee knows, we've already passed over half of our FY25 funding bills, 7 of them, in fact, in overwhelming bipartisan votes. We are on track to continue that progress today by wrapping up work on more bills. And we're continuing to work hard to get to a bipartisan agreement on the Homeland Security bill. The additional time we've allowed our committee is to take a closer look at the issues such as the Secret Service budget as we learn more from the assassination attempt of former President Trump just over 2 weeks ago. My hope is that we will be able to mark that bill up when we return. In the meantime, before us today are strong bipartisan bills that make crucial investment in our nation's future. By working together, finding common ground, and rejecting dangerous cuts and extreme policy, we have once again produced strong bipartisan bills that increase support for families, strengthen our national security, invest in our economy and competitiveness, and can actually be signed into law. These bills make common sense investments in programs that make a real difference for our nation's future. There are investments here that strengthen our economy through workforce development, cutting-edge scientific and biomedical research, support for small business, and major support for our infrastructure and waterways that are crucial to trade, agriculture, and more. There are investments in these bills to make families' lives a little easier and help parents make ends meet, like increased funding for childcare, our K-12 public schools, and to help students get a higher education. Support for community health care and public health work, resources to make sure families can afford heating and AC, and much more. There are investments to protect our environment, whether it's restoring ecosystems for key species like salmon, addressing extreme weather dangers like flooding, or environmental cleanup like at the Hanford nuclear site. And there are investments to protect people in every corner of the country, protect our nation, and protect our democracy, whether that be protecting consumers from fraud, protecting communities from opioids and pandemics, protecting our electrical grid from cyber attacks, protecting our elections from bad actors and foreign interference, or protecting our nation with strong strategic defense investments. These are really critical investments we're talking about today, so I'm glad we were able to work together like families back home expect us to do and write bills that meet the challenges of this moment and set our country up for success. These are serious, bipartisan bills with funding priorities that can actually be signed into law, and I hope we are able to get each of them across the finish line today. With that, I will turn it over to Vice Chair Collins for any comments she would like to make.
Thank you very much, Chair Murray, for convening today's markup, our 3rd of the fiscal year 2025 appropriations cycle. Over the last several weeks, we've made much progress, approving by significant bipartisan votes 7 of the 12 annual appropriations bills. Today, we take the critical next step by considering what I hope will be 4 bills that are critical to our national security and to the health and well-being of American families and our economy. First will be the Energy and Water Development Funding Bill. This bill will help strengthen America's energy independence and embraces an all-of-the-above approach to energy research, development, and deployment. Critical water infrastructure projects that provide for safe navigation and flood control are funded. It also invests in nuclear deterrence during a period of growing geopolitical tensions. I commend Chair Murray and Ranking Member Kennedy for their hard work on this bill. Second, we will consider the Defense Appropriations Bill that Chair Tester and I have drafted. I'll have more to say about that later, but let me briefly note that this bill provides resources that are very much needed to strengthen our military services and defense industrial base while investing in our men and women in uniform. Next, we will turn to the Labor, HHS, and Education Bill. I want to thank Chair Baldwin and Ranking Member Capito for their tremendous work. This bill supports life-saving biomedical research, including through targeted funding increases for Alzheimer's, cancer, Lyme disease, mental health, and diabetes. It also provides significant resources for substance abuse prevention and treatment programs to help combat the scourge of fentanyl and other illicit drugs plaguing our communities. This bill also supports families by investing in education and increasing resources for affordable childcare, promoting financial stability for working parents and benefiting our economy. Finally, it is my hope that we will be able to turn to the Financial Services and General Government Bill, which is under the leadership of Chair Van Hollen and Ranking Member Haggerty, who have devoted tremendous time to this bill. It covers a wide swath of federal government funding issues, from anti-terrorism efforts at Treasury to the operation and protection of the judicial branch. Given increased threats to the Supreme Court justices in recent years, this bill provides increased funding for residential security for the justices. I'm pleased that the bill provides vital safeguards to protect taxpayer information. I do believe that ultimately we should have a rescission of the Inflation Reduction Act IRS funding, but I strongly support moving forward with the bill today, and that's an issue we'll continue to work on to reach agreement in conference. And again, I want to thank Chair Van Hollen and Ranking Member Haggerty for their work. Before moving to votes on these bills, I would note that work also continues in earnest on the Homeland Security Bill. That bill provides critical resources to secure our borders, support our Coast Guard, and fund important state and local grant programs, including assistance to firefighters. It also, as the chair mentioned, funds the Secret Service, which, given the recent assassination attempt on President Trump and changes atop the Democratic presidential ticket, requires additional time, consideration, and scrutiny. I thank the chair and all of our members for their continued work.
Thank you. Thank you. It's now time to start voting, and I note the presence of a quorum, and I will turn to Senator Collins to make the customary motion for the Energy and Water, Defense, and LHS bills.
Madam Chair, I move that the committee report favorably an original bill making appropriations for energy and water development and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and for other purposes, an original bill making appropriations for the Department of Defense for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and for other purposes, and an original bill making appropriations for the Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services, and Education, and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and for other purposes, provided that each bill be subject to amendment and that each bill be consistent with its budget allocation. Provided further that the chair of the committee or the chair of the subcommittee reporting the original bill be authorized to offer the substance of the original bill as a committee amendment in the nature of a substitute to the House companion measure.
Without objection, so ordered. We will now vote to report the energy and water bill favorably, subject to amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Durbin.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Tester. Senator Shaheen. Senator Merkley. Senator Coons. Senator Schatz. Senator Baldwin. Senator Murphy. Senator Manchin. Senator Van Hollen. Senator Heinrich. Senator Peters. Senator Sinema. Senator Collins.
Aye.
Senator McConnell.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Graham. Senator Moran. Senator Hoban. Senator Bozeman. Senator Capito. Senator Kennedy. Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Haggerty.
Aye.
Senator Britt. Senator Rubio. Senator Fisher. And Senator Murray.
Aye. On this vote, there are 27 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is agreed to. Next, we will vote to report the defense bill favorably, subject to amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Durbin.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Tester.
Aye.
Senator Shaheen. Senator Merkley. Senator Coons. Senator Schatz. Senator Baldwin. Senator Murphy. Senator Manchin. Senator Van Hollen. Senator Heinrich. Senator Peters. Senator Sinema. Senator Collins.
Aye.
Senator McConnell.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Graham. Senator Moran. Senator Hoban. Senator Bozeman. Senator Capito. Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy. Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Haggerty.
Aye.
Senator Britt. Senator Rubio. Senator Fisher. Senator Murray.
Aye. On this vote, there are 28 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is agreed to. Next, we will vote to report the LHHS bill favorably, subject to amendment. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Durbin.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Tester.
Aye.
Senator Shaheen. Senator Merkley. Senator Coons. Senator Schatz. Senator Baldwin. Senator Murphy. Senator Manchin. Senator Van Hollen. Senator Heinrich. Senator Peters. Senator Sinema. Senator Collins.
Aye.
Senator McConnell.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Graham. Senator Moran. Senator Hoban. Senator Bozeman. Senator Capito. Senator Kennedy. Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Haggerty.
No.
Senator Britt. Senator Rubio. Senator Fisher. Senator Murray.
Aye. On this vote, there are 26 ayes, 2 nays. The bill is agreed to. Senator Collins, is there a motion you need to make?
Yes. As a courtesy to the leaders, Senator McConnell has asked to be recorded as present in voting aye on the Energy and Water Development and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill, aye on the Department of Defense Appropriations Bill, and aye on the Departments of Labor, HHS, and Education and Related Appropriations Bill, Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. I ask that the committee grant this request as it would not set a formal precedent, nor would it change any vote outcomes.
Without objection, Senator Britt.
Madam Chair, I ask to be recorded as a yes on the energy and water bill, please.
Without objection. The vote on that bill is 28 aye, 0 nays. The bill is agreed to. All right, we will now turn to consideration of the FY25 Energy and Water Development Appropriations Bill. First of all, I want to start by thanking Senator Kennedy for his work on the bill and his focused leadership to help get this bill to this point. I also want to thank his staff, including Lindsay Garcia, Kathleen Williams, Rachel Littleton, and Anna Newton, and my staff, Doug Clapp, Aaron Goldner, Laura Powell, Maria Calderon, and Amanda Wyma-Bridley for their incredible work to produce this bipartisan bill. It really does take a tremendous effort to put these bills together, and I really do appreciate everyone's hard work to get us to this point. This bill makes some truly crucial investments for our nation. Our ports, our harbors, our waterways are the beating heart of trade, agriculture, and commerce throughout our nation. And of course, they're also a cornerstone of invaluable, irreplaceable ecosystems. And that is especially true in my state of Washington, which is why I worked really hard to strengthen investments throughout this bill that will help us protect and maintain these crucial resources. From funding for the Army Corps of Engineers, the Bureau of Reclamation, to a robust funding level for the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, and I pushed hard to make sure that ports in states like mine and many others get their fair share of those funds. Ecosystem restoration projects funded in this bill, like the Howard Hansen Dam Fish Passage Facility, will help us protect keystone species, like salmon, which are truly a way of life in my home state. Other investments in this bill will help prepare our communities and support infrastructure to help keep people safe during extreme weather events and flooding that, as we all know, has become more frequent. This bill provides significant new resources for scientific discovery at our national labs, like PNNL, that are working on breakthrough technologies that will define the future, clean energy, AI, advanced computing, and more. These resources are so important to making sure America remains the world leader in innovation. This bill also includes important funding to protect our energy grid and improve cybersecurity and grid resilience so we can keep the lights on when disaster and emergency strike, and funding for climate research and renewable energy, including to strengthen our grid and build more transmission as we transition to clean energy. It invests in nuclear non-proliferation programs and provides record funding to live up to our obligations to our communities when it comes to environmental cleanup. And on that last point, I fought especially hard to increase environmental cleanup investments in this bill and secure a significant increase in funding for Hanford site in Washington State. Some of my colleagues have been hearing me talk about Hanford for years, and I believe very strongly that the federal government has a moral and legal obligation to clean this up seriously. I will never let us forget about it. Overall, this bill includes many investments that are crucial to our nation's strength, economy, and security. I again want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for working through all of these important issues in this bill. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Murray, I have enjoyed working with you. I want to read some names. Lindsay Garcia, Anna Newton, Katie Williams, Rachel Littleton, Doug Clapp, Aaron Goldner, Laura Powell, Maria Calderon, and Amanda Wyma-Bridley. Those are the members of our staff on both sides of the aisle, and they worked very hard, and I want to thank them. They're kind of unsung heroes, so I don't know, maybe now they'll be sung heroes. This is not a bad bill. Could be better. We're spending more money on defense. In particular, our plutonium pit production, our nation's weapon systems, the nuclear-armed sea-launched cruise missile. My biggest disappointment, as you know, and I don't want to overstate it, the world's not going to spin off its axis, but we've got more work to do. As you know, a big portion of the energy and water development bill is defense. And so how we define defense matters. We also have a problem in our country with nuclear contamination, many sites. And that's an environmental concern. Technically, it's defense, but to me, it's more environmental. And we obviously have to address those. Senator Murray and I disagree over whether that is a defense expenditure or a non-defense expenditure. I think it's non-defense. I think when we call it defense, this is my point of view, and only my point of view, when we call it defense, we give the impression to our constituents and taxpayers that we're spending money on defense when we're really not. But as we all know, this bill has a long way to go. I applaud our efforts here. I support them. I think I voted for all the bills. I think we all recognize to a large extent this is play acting. At some point, we're going to have to reach agreement on 302B allocations. I know we've taken a vote. It was a purely partisan vote. I'd like to see us sit down and negotiate that. And we also have got to convince Senator Schumer, my friend Senator Schumer, to bring the bills to the floor. And we've got to talk to our House members. So we've got a long way to go. Final point. We are starting to discuss extending the cuts in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And that's a discussion we need to have. To me, the way we ought to start is taking a look at what worked and what didn't work. And if it worked, we ought to do it again. We ought to order a dozen. If it didn't work, we shouldn't do it. But we're not going to be able to do that in a vacuum. We all know we have to spend more money on defense. We just do. I don't want to have to learn Mandarin at my age. We've got to spend more money on defense. We cannot ignore the fact, I don't want to get into whose fault it is, that we're running deficits. And those deficits become debt. And if we keep going at the rate we're going to run out of digits. So sooner or later, we're going to have to take a look at our budget. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm a part of it. But we got to stop creating exceptions and emergencies that aren't really emergencies and really sit down and have a frank discussion how we're going to balance all these competing interests. And maybe the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act issue will be the propellant that we need. And that's just one person's point of view, but I bet Tester agrees with me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. All of you have a bipartisan manager's package in front of you. Are there any objections to the manager's package? Seeing none, the manager's package is agreed to. And at this point, are there any members who wish to speak to or offer an amendment on the energy and water bill? Senator Shaheen?
I would just like to make a brief comment because I want to thank you and Senator Kennedy for the increase in funding to support the Army Corps in addressing small and remote assistance harbors across the country. This has been a real shortfall for a long time, and I appreciate also the continued inclusion of language directing the Corps to expedite the maintenance at smaller ports. We need them in our small communities that have those ports for continued growth. So thank you, and thank you to the committee.
Senator Brett?
Thank you, Chair Murray. I'd like to thank you and Ranking Member Kennedy for your work on this bill. I was proud to support the FY25 Energy and Water Appropriations Act today, and it includes a number of provisions that are important to the great state of Alabama, including that of Selma. So most Americans know about Selma because of its pivotal role in the civil rights movement, including Bloody Sunday and the courageous march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge that is commemorated every year at the Jubilee. Sadly, a mere few feet from that very bridge, history is literally falling into the river. Due to years of erosion along the bank of the Alabama River, the stability of multiple historic buildings in Selma, including many of those that have a direct connection to the civil rights movement, are threatened. I have been proud to work alongside my friend, Congresswoman Terry Sewell, to devote resources to ensure that the U.S. Army Corps can continue its critical work on the Selma, Alabama Flood Risk Management and River Bank Stabilization Project. The FY25 Energy and Water Development Appropriations Act includes $550,000 in federal funding for the Corps to continue their efforts this year. Combined with $300,000 included in the FY25 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Act, the important work to save these historic buildings will be able to continue. Furthermore, the Energy and Water Bill includes report language directing the Delta Regional Authority to consider disaster recovery projects in distressed areas included in a disaster declaration as basic public infrastructure or basic public services. As many on this committee know, an EF2 tornado with top winds of 130 miles per hour barreled through Selma on January 12, 2023. The devastation to this historic city was tremendous. And more than 18 months later, you can still see the scars carved in the city and the surrounding areas in the Black Belt. This provision will help direct needed federal resources to help the people of Selma. I want to thank the efforts of the committee staff, in particular Anna Newton and Maria Calderon, for working with my team on this important effort. And I would also like to give a special thank you to my colleagues across the aisle for working so closely with me on this. Senator Chris Coons from Delaware and Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii, who serve constituencies miles away from this location, but they understand that the history of Selma is important not just for the state of Alabama. It's important for our nation, and it's important for the globe. Thank you so much for working with me on this. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Chester?
I too want to thank you, Madam Chair, and Ranking Member Kennedy, for the work you've done on this bill. It's a really good bill. I want to tell you, there's one project in Montana that the Bureau of Reclamation did, or our forefathers did, I should say, in the early 1900s. It took water from the St. Mary's drainage and put it into the Milk through a set of canals and siphons. And the reason this is important is because the Milk River would run dry 6 out of 10 years if this didn't happen. Well, guess what happened? In a project that's over 110 years old, that's older than you, Kennedy, this facility failed, and it failed a few weeks ago. And look, we pushed the administration. They have stepped up, and they've used emergency spending to get dirt moving and get this project going, because our system in Montana to be able to redo projects like this is limited by weather. So the administration has moved, but the fact is this committee stepped up in a big way and put some dollars in to allow the Bureau of Rec to do this project and to get water flowing to help towns along the Milk and to help 120,000 acres of irrigated land. I can't thank you enough for the work that the committee did, because quite honestly, water is life. And without water, folks cannot exist. This project is really important for life along the northern tier of Montana. So thank you both.
Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy?
Madam Chair, for the record, Senator Tester's first car was a Chariot.
Are there any other senators who would like to address? Senator Merkley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will offer and withdraw this amendment, but I want to make the point. This amendment bans the Department of Energy from approving export facilities that enable LNG to be exported to China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia, and Belarus. Essentially, these exports are, first, in terms of climate, the worst form of fossil energy, worse than local coal, worse than oil, worse than any other form. Second of all, we're helping our competitors, and in case several countries are enemies, while we are making prices higher for American consumers who depend on gas to heat their homes, heat their water, and cook their food. So we're helping our enemies, we're hurting Americans, but in conversation over the basic framework of the entire bill, I'll withdraw it at this point.
Are there any other senators who wish to address the committee on this bill? Seeing none, this bill will be reported as amended. We will now turn to consideration of the FY25 bill recommended by the Defense Subcommittee. I want to thank Senator Tester and Senator Collins and their staff for all of this work on this important bill. I know members on both sides of the aisle feel very strongly that we meet this moment with robust defense investments. And I appreciate the bipartisan work that has gone into making sure we not only provided new investments in this bill, but there are also increases for funding that families need here at home as well. I'm pleased the agreement we reached has made it possible to write a strong defense bill that makes important investments in building our military supply chains and capacity, providing the equipment and training our forces need, and investing in our military families and the brave men and women in uniform who are our nation's most invaluable asset. This bill builds on the critical work we did in the National Security Supplemental to counter Russia's aggression, the influence of the Chinese government in the Indo-Pacific, and a lot more. Senator Tester, I will turn it over to you for your opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you and Senator Collins for your bipartisan efforts to move the appropriations process forward. You know better, you both know better than anybody the devastating effects of continuing resolutions and government shutdowns. We wrapped up last year's defense budget just a few months ago. So some might wonder why we're already looking forward to next year. Well, I want to remind everybody that last year's budget got done 6 months late. As a result of that, our sailors, our soldiers, our airmen, our Marines, our space guardians were fighting literally with one hand tied behind their back. How do we hold defense contractors accountable when we don't do our job? We have got to get our budgets done on time. The global security situation that we see today is as dangerous as it's ever been. I want to repeat that. The global security situation we see today is as dangerous as it's ever been. Proof points: just last week, Russian and Chinese bombers entered the Alaska Air Defense Zone some 150 miles off the United States coast. It's the first time that Chinese bombers operated in that area, and they did it jointly with the Russians. This is alarming. In fact, Russia and China are collaborating across the globe, from space all the way down to Russia's unjust war in Ukraine. China also continues to conduct military drills around Taiwan and the furtherance of Xi's goal to forcefully invade that country. And China keeps escalating its aggressive behavior in the South China Sea, more recently threatening the Philippine government over its alliances with the United States. With Russia's support, North Korea continues to expand its nuclear program. Iran-backed Houthis continue to attack commercial ships in the Red Sea and our ships that protect Israel from Iranian missiles. Terrorist threats from ISIS and al-Qaeda are taking hold in Africa and elsewhere, and very recently Americans saw what happens when a software patch goes bad. 5 flights were grounded, computers didn't work, and I can assure you that Chinese, Russians, and Iranian cyber forces are capable of much worse against our critical military and civilian infrastructure. Look, I could go on, but the bottom line is this. There is no single budget line item that solves these problems. It's a combination of efforts that sets men and women who wear our nation's uniform up for success. This bill recommends $852.2 billion for the Department of Defense in FY25, an increase of $27.2 billion over last year. That includes $20.8 billion in emergency spending that Senator Collins and I believe are critical to ensuring the Defense Department can meet its mission. This bill provides funding for recruiting and training of our military officers so our troops can do their jobs. It gives them hard-earned pay raise, and it takes care of their families. The bill invests in the modernization of our nuclear triad and outdated weapon systems, and it helps the DoD innovate with modern technology. This bill puts our defense industrial base on a stronger footing by modernizing and expanding production facilities for critical weapons. It strengthens our deterrence against China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. Simply put, if we fail to act, war is inevitable. This bill provides stability and predictability to the Department of Defense, our workforce, and those who would harm us. I want to thank Senator Collins. She has been great to work with. Her staff has even been better to work with in crafting this bipartisan bill. That's not a knock, that's a plus. And I would urge everybody's support. This is a difficult time in this world. Kennedy's right. We need to start looking at defense from a deterrence standpoint, and if we don't have the deterrence, we got big problems. Finally, I want to recognize the Defense Subcommittee staff who has worked tirelessly to put this bill together. Gabriela Armanda, Mike Clemente, Laura Forrest, Abby Grace, Katie Hagan, Bridget Kolish, Rob Leonard, Ryan Pettit, and Kate Coffer. They are the hardest working staff on the Hill, in my opinion, but I want to say a few words about Kate that goes off script a bit. Kate is going to retire at the end of the year. Kate has literally been my right-hand man on this committee, making sure that we're doing things and doing things right to meet the needs of the military and meet the national defense issues in this country. She's not only great at policy, but she can drink beer with the best of them. And I would just say to Kate, we wish you the best, and we're going to miss you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tester. And before I turn it over to Senator Collins, I want to join in recognizing Kate Coffer's many years of service. From day one of me taking over the committee, Kate has really been critical to the success of not only the Defense Subcommittee, but really to this whole committee and to me as well. I'm really deeply thankful for your counsel, your dedication, your service, all of which have really been crucial in keeping our country safe through all of your years of service. Kate, no, you will be missed. And we all wish you well in your next steps, but I want to thank you for all your years of service to this committee and to our country. So thank you as well. Senator Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the risk of piling on, I too want to thank Kate for her extraordinary work. The only thing I will not miss is her ability to talk my staff into supporting certain policies. I was glad that Senator Tester alerted me to that issue this morning. First of all, let me thank Chairman Tester for your partnership in developing the Defense Appropriations Bill. I also want to extend my gratitude to Chair Murray for working with me to ensure that this bill provides our military with the resources it requires. This additional funding is sorely needed to meet global threats that combatant commanders describe as the most dangerous in 50 years. The Commission on National Defense Strategy, chaired by former Representative Jane Harmon, stated that the threats to the United States are the most serious since World War II. Overall, this bill provides $851.7 billion for the Department of Defense and for our intelligence community. That is a 3.3% compared to last year's fiscal 2024 levels. It strengthens our military across all domains, in the air, on land, at sea, in space, and in cyberspace. By contrast, the administration's budget would have led to the smallest Air Force in history, and our naval fleet of 296 ships would have shrunk by 5 ships over the next 5 years, while China's Navy continues to grow to 435 ships. Our bill includes $37 billion for Navy shipbuilding, the largest shipbuilding budget ever. It begins to reverse the dangerous decline in the number of Navy ships, although much more remains to be done to respond to the surge in the size of the Chinese Navy. Specifically, the bill would provide funding for 7 new battle force ships, including 3 DDG-51 destroyers. These destroyers, including those built at Bath Iron Works, the USS Kearney, and the USS Arleigh Burke, have proven invaluable in defending commercial and U.S. vessels in the Red Sea, as well as in the defense of Israel. The bill provides funding for a second ship set of Virginia-class submarine material to provide certainty for suppliers and to avoid supply chain disruptions. And it supports the Navy's plan for a 4-ship procurement of amphibious ships, which will save taxpayers more than $900 million than if they were bought individually by buying material in bulk and streamlining construction. For the Air Force, the bill provides additional funding to make nearly 500 more aircraft available than the president's budget request would allow. This is because the Air Force had an unfunded requirement that we are taking care of that will be used to purchase aircraft spare parts. And just to emphasize how important this is, it prevents the grounding of an estimated 221 airplanes because of the lack of spare parts. The bill also fulfills the Army's #1 unfunded priority for 1,200 counter-drone systems and radars. Iran and its proxies, as well as Russia in its attacks in Ukraine, have demonstrated that warfare has changed. Our strategy must reflect that reality. In total, the bill provides approximately $1 billion for counter-drone capabilities to address this growing and evolving threat. To deter and counter China's growing military capability, the bill more than doubles the funding proposed in the budget request for offensive space control capabilities. It also increases funding for missile defense in Guam, a joint fires network to enhance targeting capabilities in the region, and 5 otherwise unfunded requirements at the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. I do want to emphasize that the bill does not just focus on aircraft, ships, weapons, and equipment, critical though those are. It also gives our brave, highly skilled service members the pay and benefits they deserve. It funds a 4.5% pay raise for most of our servicemen and women and a 5.5% pay raise for the most junior enlisted service members. We need also to recognize the need to accelerate modernization of Marine Corps barracks that are in poor condition by providing $1 billion for that purpose. That is $349 million more than the budget request. Another $135 million is included for a new special payment for soldiers on operational orders and deployed away from their permanent duty station. This payment is similar to the Navy's CPay incentive that recognizes the greater than normal rigors during long operational deployments. At home, this bill includes $4.9 billion, more than double the request, to help strengthen the U.S. defense industrial base. The funding will expand solid rocket motor production, increase raw material purchases needed for critical weapons systems, and modernize ammunition plants as well as our public shipyards. The bill includes $5.9 billion to maximize the production of 8 critical munitions in demand worldwide, such as the Patriot air defense missiles and the Tomahawk cruise missiles. Collectively, these investments continue the transition from just-in-time to a just-in-case approach to weapons manufacturing. For the National Guard, the bill includes $1 billion that was excluded from the administration budget to address capability gaps and equipment shortfalls. It also includes funding to add 7 new countries within the state partnership program. that has been such a terrific success. Finally, this bill includes assistance for our Baltic allies on NATO's eastern flank with Russia, funding to provide new weapons for Taiwan to defend itself, and continued support for the U.S.-Israeli cooperative missile defense capabilities. These missile defense capabilities are playing an indispensable role in thwarting Iran's unprecedented drone and missile attacks against Israel. As the vice chairman of the Commission on National Defense Strategy noted, we can't confront the biggest threat since the height of the Cold War with the smallest military in a generation, historically low defense spending, and an atrophied industrial base. Those are words we need to pay attention to, and this bill does. Let me close by acknowledging that the bill before us reflects input from each and every member of this committee, as well as countless of our colleagues who do not have the honor of serving on this committee. So I want to thank each of our colleagues for their contributions, and let me thank our staff who have worked so hard on this bill. I do want to mention the staff on the minority side as well, Ryan Caldwell, Todd Phillips, Jason Potter, Jesse Tollinson, Mike Wakefield, of course, the indispensable, soon to make herself dispensable, Kate Cover, Mike Clementi, Laura Forrest, Abby Grace, Katie Hagan, Bridget Kolish, Rob Leonard, Ryan Pettit, Kim Segura, and Gabriella Amanda. I did not know that the Democratic side had double the staff of our side, but fortunately they work together in a very nonpartisan, bipartisan way, and that's how we get things done on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Collins. Senator Testers, do you have a manager's package you wish to see?
Yeah, Senator Collins just doubled because they have to compensate for the chair. But I have a motion to make, Madam Chair. Senator Collins and I have prepared a bipartisan manager's package, and I would move for its immediate adoption.
Is there an objection? Without objection, the manager's package is agreed to. Are there any members wishing to speak or offer an amendment? Well, you guys did such a good job that we will, seeing no comments or amendments, this bill will be reported as amended.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had intended to vote no on the Labor H and Education bill. I apologize. I was focused on receiving input. We had 100-mile-an-hour winds in Omaha and Lincoln last night, and so I would ask consent that I be recorded as a no.
Thank you. And on this vote there, on that vote, there are then 25 ayes, 3 nays, and the bill is agreed to.
Thank you.
We will now turn to consideration of the FY25 appropriations bill recommended by the Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies. I really want to thank Senators Baldwin and Senator Capito and their staff for the bipartisan effort on this bill. I care deeply about this bill because there are so many investments in it that are not only important, but personal to families across the country. There's investments to fight the opioid epidemic and help people struggling with substance use disorder. There's investments to help families keep the heat on in the winter and air on in the summer. Investments in biomedical research so we can find life-saving treatments and cures. Investments in public health, community health centers, and family planning programs that get people affordable, essential care. Investments in our public schools, investments in higher education and workforce training, investments to protect workers' rights, and of course, the investments in childcare and Head Start. The childcare crisis is holding so many parents back, which is why I'm especially pleased we increased early childhood development programs by over $2 billion, including $700 million in new funding for Head Start. Investing in families is investing in our economy, and I'm glad we were able to put together a bill that shows we understand how important these issues are to everyone that we represent back at home. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Baldwin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Murray and Vice Chair Collins, for your leadership in ushering bipartisan appropriations bills through the committee again this year. And I also want to thank Senator Capito for your approach and collaboration in developing this bill before us. The labor HHS bill includes a modest increase over last year that allows us to address bipartisan priorities and pressing needs facing families and communities across our country. Our bill addresses kitchen table issues I hear about every day from Wisconsinites. It increases investments in child care for working families, research to discover life-saving cures for deadly diseases, prevention and treatment efforts to curb the fentanyl and substance use epidemic, mental health care, helping people get the skills and tools that they need to land family-supporting jobs, and support for students and educators, among others. These are bipartisan priorities that this committee has consistently supported. These investments help address the issues that all of our constituents are grappling with. Everywhere I travel in my state, I hear constant concerns about the high cost of and lack of access to childcare. We can and must do more for families, businesses, and childcare providers. Our bill includes a combined $2.3 billion increase for early learning programs, including a $1.6 billion increase for the Child Care and Development Block Grant and a $700 million increase for Head Start. When parents cannot find quality, affordable child care, it hurts families, businesses, and our economy. It deprives kids of consistent early learning opportunities. It means parents have to miss work or drop out of the labor force altogether. It means businesses can't find the skilled workforce they need. More needs to be done to fix our broken child care system, but this bill will help states ensure more working families have access to quality child care, including by supporting providers operating on razor-thin margins, particularly those in rural and underserved areas. Our bill also includes an increase of more than $2 billion for NIH to support life-saving research. Every American is affected by disease in their lifetimes, either themselves, personally, or a loved one. This bipartisan bill bolsters research to deliver the treatments and cures to help them. It includes $958 million to fully restore funding for the Cancer Moonshot, the Brain Initiative, and All of Us research programs. This will support research with the goal of cutting the cancer death rate by at least 50% over the next 25 years, accelerating our understanding of the human brain and the development of neurotechnologies to help treat diseases of the brain, and advancing precision medicine. It includes $275 million increase for mental health research, a $275 million increase for Alzheimer's disease research, a $266 million increase for cancer research, and a $130 million increase for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and a $76 million increase for the Office of Research on Women's Health, a $20 million increase for research on maternal mortality, and a $10 million increase for opioid research. While our country continues to grapple with deadly poisonings and overdoses from fentanyl, we boosted our investment in programs that are helping our communities save lives. The bill includes a $215 million increase for substance use and mental health service programs that provide critical support for those struggling with substance use disorders and mental health challenges. In the first 2 years of operation, the 988 Suicide Prevention Lifeline has answered 10 million calls, chats, and texts. As the co-author of the bill to establish 988, that is both encouraging as well as a distressing sign of the number of individuals, especially youth, seeking crisis care. The bill includes an increase of $20 million for 988 to ensure someone is on the other end of that call, and additional funding to increase our behavioral health workforce and expand access to mental health care, including a $10 million increase for the mental health crisis response grants. I'm also proud that our bill invests in our students and workers. With an ever-changing economy, getting the skills and tools to meet the job market looks different as well. Our bill includes targeted increases to career and technical education and apprenticeships that provide pathways to good-paying jobs and careers. Our legislation also invests in foundational elementary and secondary education programs, such as the Title I-A and IDEA formula grants, and boosts the maximum Pell Grant award to help support students in post-secondary education. Given the breadth of issues important to both Democrats and Republicans that are covered in this bill, I could really go on and on. It strengthens our pandemic preparedness and biodefense programs, including helping ensure critical elements in our public health supply chain are made in America. It allows for more frequent nursing home inspections and will mean that Social Security can provide better service for the tens of millions of Americans that rely on it and have earned their benefits. I am proud of the investments that we are able to make in this bill. These investments will make the lives of our constituents better so that they can live healthy, fulfilling lives. But to be clear, I'm disappointed that we weren't able to do more. Women's health and reproductive rights are under attack in this country. Women are being denied the right to control their bodies, families, and future, while putting their health and well-being at risk. This will not be fixed in an appropriations bill, but we should do more, including increasing funding for family planning and other critical programs. This bill is very much a compromise that was developed in a fully bipartisan manner. It is in stark contrast to the House Labor HHS bill. The partisan approach of the House leads to constant threats of government shutdown that do nothing but waste time and resources. That's a disservice to Wisconsinites and communities across the country that rely on services funded in this bill. This is a bill that can and should be passed by the Senate, passed by the House, and signed by the President. Finally, I want to thank the staff who helped put this bill together. Even before pencils went down on fiscal year 2024 appropriations in March, these staff members were already hard at work on this bill. That includes my staff on the majority, Amanda Beaumont, Aaron Dugan, Janie Delaney, Mike Gentili, Mark Leish, Claire Montero, Megan Mott, Catherine Tumajian, and Senator Capito's staff on the minority, Ashley Palmer, Tom Pfeiffer, Lindsay Seidman, and Emily Slack. I also want to thank all of the other staff on the committee and at GPO and CBO who really worked around the clock to get us to this point. This is a good bill, and I'm proud to have my colleagues' support for it.
Senator Capito.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair Collins. I know you all both have a great passion for the bill that we are under consideration. As we near the end of our subcommittee markups, I'd like to thank the leaders of this committee and all of my fellow committee members. Chair Murray and Vice Chair Collins have once again delivered on their promised commitment to regular order, and I hope that continues on the floor, and we've heard that echoed by several other members today. The Labor HHS Appropriations Bill is one of the most difficult appropriations bills to negotiate and is the largest non-defense discretionary bill. This is the second year that Senator Baldwin and I have been at the helm of the Labor HHS subcommittee, and I'm pleased to say that once again we present a bipartisan bill to the full committee. I want to thank her for her hands-on, dedicated passion that she brings to the table as the chair. The bill continues our bipartisan record from last year and maintains all longstanding riders and does not include any new controversial riders. The bill includes a number of bipartisan member priorities, such as, and the chair enumerated many of these, and I'm going to go through a few that are important to me, such as greater investments in America's biomedical research, child care, mental health, workforce, strengthening biodefense, and continuing efforts to combat the opioid epidemic. Our bill provides an increase of $2 billion for the National Institutes of Health to still prioritize basic research in the United States. The bill does not provide funding for the Wuhan Institute of Virology or Echo Health. The NIH investment restores cures funding for the Cancer Moonshot, Brain Initiative, and All of Us research program. We have also provided targeted increases for research in such areas as Alzheimer's, mental health, women's health, maternal health, and cancer, including a $20 million increase for the Childhood Cancer STAR Act. As we provide a $25 million increase, we also provide a $25 million increase to the NIH IDEA program that provides funding to 23 of our states that historically had lower levels of NIH funding, including our state of West Virginia. This program has been so important for research at West Virginia institutions like WVU and Marshall universities. Today's bill also builds on our efforts to fight the continued problem of substance abuse, particularly fentanyl, which remains a serious problem in the country and particularly in our state of West Virginia. The bill provides $4.6 billion for addiction treatment, prevention, research, and recovery programs. It continues a multi-pronged approach, including efforts to slow the addiction epidemic, $1.6 billion for the state opioid research response grants to address the opioid epidemic in ways that suit individual state needs, $2 billion for the substance use prevention and treatment block grant, and $660 million for the NIH Helping to End Addiction Long-Term, or NIH HEAL initiative. This bill also provides significant resources in our health workforce. I am sure everyone at this table and everybody in this room, anytime you visit a health facility, workforce challenges are rampant across the country in the health field. It helps to increase the number of counselors, social workers, peer support specialists, and clinical professionals to respond to the addiction crisis, which will help our providers. Health workforce training investments are also included to educate and retain nurses and to grow the number of geriatric providers to care for our aging population. That would be Senator Kennedy. Couldn't resist. The Labor HH bill again prioritizes our children, starting with early childhood education all the way to college, to make sure our students are prepared for the jobs today, but also in the future. Specifically, a $1.6 billion increase to the Child Care and Development Block Grant that many of us had asked for, a $700 million increase to Head Start to support our early childhood education, $280 million increase for Title I to support students in low-income schools, $300 million increase for IDEA grants to states, which provides special education services for students with disabilities, and the $100 increase to the Maximum Pell Award for a total of, the Maximum Pell Award will go to $7,495 for the 25-26 school year. I've just described several bipartisan programs we have included to improve the lives of Americans, and I encourage my colleagues to support this Labor HHS bill. I am going to thank our staff again. Senator Baldwin did a good job, but I would like to start with her staff: Mike Gentile, Mark Leish, Megan Mott, Catherine Temujin, Aaron Dugan, Amanda Beaumont, Claire Montero, and Janie Dulaney. On my Labor HH staff, we were texting at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning: Lindsay Seidman, Ashley Palmer, and Emily Slack. In my personal office, my chief, J.T. Jazerski, James Mann, Thompson Moore, Dana Richter, and Mimi Vance, and the full committee staff that helps all of our subcommittees: Clint Trocchio and Ben Hammond, and the wonderful GPO team. So thank you again to the chair and to the vice chair.
Thank you. Senator Baldwin, I understand you have a manager's package.
Thank you, Chair Murray. I do have a manager's amendment that I would like to offer. It has been circulated. It is, has been negotiated with Senator Capito and has been cleared on both sides, and I ask that it be adopted by unanimous consent.
Are there any members wishing to speak to the manager's package? If not, the manager's package is agreed to. Are there any members wishing to speak to this bill or offer an amendment? Senator Shaheen.
I'd just like to speak briefly to thank both the chair and ranking member for their efforts to support states still dealing with the opioid epidemic. I know that both of you understand very directly the challenges that states are facing, and I especially appreciate being able to use those grant dollars to cover cocaine and meth use, which we're seeing ever more of in New Hampshire. So thank you both very much.
Are there any other senators wishing to speak or to offer an amendment?
Madam Chair,
Senator Bozeman.
I would like to thank you and Vice Chair Collins and Senator Capito and Baldwin and their staffs for working with me and our co-sponsor, Senator Tester, to include report language ensuring volunteer fire departments are protected. Across Arkansas, volunteer fire departments are the backbone of our rural communities. Of the 1,003 fire departments in the natural state, 974 are either fully or partially staffed by volunteer firefighters and their support personnel. That would be true of most of our states with the people represented here. In fact, nationally, over 65% of firefighters are volunteers. A proposed OSHA rule could negatively impact these services in Arkansas and across the country. While we must ensure firefighters have the tools and resources to keep themselves and their communities safe, I'm concerned OSHA's recently proposed rule, the emergency response standard, will impose drastic hardships on local volunteer fire departments and ultimately lead to cuts in services or even closures. To be clear, I support OSHA's goal to enhance the safety of our emergency response personnel and understand updates to the standards are necessary. However, I do not support a one-size-fits-all approach that could result in unintended consequences that threaten the safety of rural communities nationwide. I've been hearing concerns from volunteer firefighters in Arkansas that these sweeping regulations will force active fire trucks out of commission, require costly new equipment, produce an administrative compliance burden that will restrict resources and ultimately decimate volunteer fire departments and the corresponding safety measures they offer our local communities. OSHA estimates implementation of the proposed rule will cost the average volunteer fire department approximately $14,000. However, the National Volunteer Fire Council anticipates the cost will be significantly higher due to the breadth of the requirements at state. Keep in mind, volunteer fire departments typically run on tight budgets of $50,000 to $75,000 a year while tasked with keeping their entire communities out of harm's way. So I'm very thankful for the included language that will encourage constructive conversations between stakeholders and the administration to prioritize protecting the safety of our personnel without jeopardizing or sacrificing rural communities' access to local emergency services provided. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Senator Britt.
Just want to thank the chair and ranking member for your attention to the NIH Improve initiative. I really appreciate it. It's something I've been working alongside Senator LaFonza Butler to bring more attention to, both for research and funding. Alabama has the highest maternal mortality in the nation. It disproportionately affects Black women. In 2024, we should be able to get answers to this, and I appreciate your commitment to doing that. Thank you.
Senator Merkley.
Let me just take a moment to note that in FSGG, one of the issues that I'm very concerned about is that Postmaster General DeJoy has been downgrading the mail transfer centers. And in my home state, this means that in both Eugene and Medford, Central Oregon, that is the Middle Willamette Valley, and Southern Oregon, all the mail now has to go to Portland, Oregon to be redistributed. We are seeing significant delays in mail, and I think this is in many states around the country. So I know that Maine, the Vice Chair is seeing this as well. This is really devastating. The idea that you send mail to somebody in your own town and it has to go 300 miles to the north, to Portland, and then 300 miles back. Joy says this results in no delay. You cannot truck something 500 to 600 miles and not have a delay. This is following the downgrade in Bend in Central Oregon on the other side of the Cascade Mountains, so that has to go across the mountains and go back. This plan, Delivering for America, it's really about delivering mail slowly for America, and it means a continuous disincentive to use the mail service, which degrades the source of revenues, further complicating the success of the department. I know folks in my state, DeJoy said nobody's complaining, so I put out a question, how's it going? I received hundreds of letters saying it's going extremely poorly, people relating to their receive of medications, their ability to ship goods from small businesses, particularly in rural America. I am extremely disturbed about what's happening in the Postal Service. I suspect many members here are seeing similar things in the rural parts of their state. And I hope we can find a way to create a lot more pressure to save the postal system from DeJoy. There is no joy in DeJoyville at this moment.
Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Collins. Go ahead.
I just want to associate myself with the comments made by Senator Merkley. This is a terrible plan that the Postmaster General has come up with that would cause huge delays in the delivery of mail by consolidating the processing centers. In a state like mine, which is such a large rural state, it would result in mail having to go 10 hours to be sorted and then go back to the community that's 10 miles away. And it is a huge problem. We've had a hearing on the proposal in Maine, and one reason I hope that we do get to the FSGG bill is there is report language on this issue. In Maine, the Postmaster General has put a temporary pause on the consolidation plan, but it simply makes no sense. And ironically, the result is going to be that the Postal Service will lose customers. And that's the last thing that we want to see happen. I've also noted right in my own neighborhood, but I hear reports from across the state, that we're no longer receiving daily mail delivery. And that is a real problem for seniors who receive medication via the mail and veterans as well. So I do hope that we can get to the FSGG bill because there is report language on this very important subject that so matters to our constituents. So thank you for bringing it up.
Senator Shaheen.
Madam Chair, if it's in order to continue to talk about this issue, I would like to add my support for the remarks of both Senators Merkley and Collins. We are extremely concerned in New Hampshire about what the Postal Service is doing. They intend to reduce mail processing locally in New Hampshire by cutting it out entirely from our state, sending it to Massachusetts, and then back to New Hampshire. It's totally unacceptable. And the Postmaster General informed Congress when there was a public outcry about this earlier that he was going to suspend all of these changes until January 1st of 2025. But what we are hearing in New Hampshire from local stakeholders is that the Postal Service has gone ahead with these proposals. They're already moving equipment out of New Hampshire. I think this is totally unacceptable, and I agree. We know there's report language in FSGG, but let me just raise my concern about CBO's analysis of report language, because we put in language that would prevent the Postal Service from moving forward with those changes, just as the Postmaster said months ago. And the CBO has said that that scored as costing money, even though it was report language. I don't understand how CBO figures that, but I think that they need to think carefully about how directing the Postal Service to comply with what it told Congress it was doing 2 months ago could actually cost money. So I don't know what this committee can do about it, but boy, I think we ought to raise our concerns with not just the Postal Service, but CBO about what's going on here.
Thank you. Senator Moran?
Chairwoman, thank you. I want to express my gratitude to Senator Bozeman for his leadership on this issue of volunteer fire departments and the consequences of potential OSHA regulations. And I would only highlight for my colleagues, I am circulating a letter to OSHA, a bipartisan letter, and for those of you who care about at least in Kansas, the bulk of our firefighters are volunteers. This is a huge complication for the ability of small towns to provide basic services. And I'd welcome you to join in that letter to OSHA outlining those concerns. Thank you.
Are there any other senators who wish to speak on this bill?
Just to count me in on the post office effort.
Senator
About the
Coons?
firefighters.
Did you?
Winning that one, so yes.
Are there any other senators who wish to speak on the labor HS bill? Senator Coons.
I will just amplify Senator Moran's concerns, representing a state that only has one career fire department and all the other fire companies are volunteer.
Good job.
Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this bill? Having none, this bill will now be reported as amended.
Good, good. Got it. Good job, guys. That's a big deal. That's a big bill. Well, I'm not going to say there's not some issues in there. But we had to come in better because the House cut 10%, 11%. They discontinued 38. Job Cole.
How come McConnell doesn't have to come, but he gets full credit? How do you get one of those?
He's the
Well,
king.
another 30 years, you'll find out.
I mean, he gets full credit.
With the forbearance of all of our committee members, we are trying to work out one last issue. If everyone could just stay seated for our members who are not here. We may be voting very shortly. If you can notify your members that we will have to vote to move forward. Okay. All right. With that, we are going to turn consideration of the FY Appropriations Bill recommended by the Subcommittee on Financial Services and General Government. We will have to report this bill out. I'm going to have our chairman and ranking member of the subcommittee make their full remarks. Will all staff please notify your senator that as soon as we have everyone here shortly, like within the next several minutes, please, we will move to vote that bill out. But I will begin by having our members make their opening remarks, and Senator Van Hollen, we'll turn to you first, but let me just say first that this bill includes critical investments to protect and strengthen our economy and to protect consumers' pocketbooks. That includes increased investments to support small businesses and investments in fraud prevention to help protect consumers' hard-earned dollars, promote competition, and prevent anti-competitive practices that cost families. The bill includes funding for the IRS to make sure we can continue improving customer service and making sure the billionaires and the top 1% pay their fair share, and funding for the FEC and for state election security grants that will help protect our elections, which are the cornerstone of our democracy. I'm glad we were able to put together a bipartisan bill to strengthen these incredibly important investments. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Chair Murray, and let me start by thanking you and Vice Chair Collins for all your efforts to bring us together to achieve bipartisan products that can move forward. I also just want to thank Senator Hagerty, the ranking member, for his work and efforts on the subcommittee. We've had hearings, as other committees have, and we've worked together, as have our teams. And I do want to thank the members of our teams as well, the staff who put so many hours, as we know, into this effort. Jen Becker, Diana Hamilton, Maddie Dunn, Maria Calderon, Peyton Thomas, Dan Brandt, Winnie Chang, and from my personal office, Sarah Shenning and Deb Haney. I just want to thank all of them for their efforts. And I'm going to be pretty brief because I know it's been a lot of bills that we've already considered. So the FISG subcommittee has jurisdiction over a large array of federal agencies, maybe more agencies than any other subcommittee. They span from the Department of Treasury to the federal judiciary to Small Business Administration. And the bill today is the bipartisan product of our discussions. Just to give you an idea of some of the essential agencies that we finance here, FinCEN, who's been working on those beneficial ownership implementation provisions, cracking down on bad actors in the international financial system like Russian oligarchs and other kleptocrats. The Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence at the Department of Treasury. We need to make sure they have the resources they need to protect Americans' security. The CDFI, the Community Development and Financial Institutions programs, we provided $354 million in those programs that provide important credit and financial services to underserved markets. At the SBA, the entrepreneurial development programs, $330 million for those, as well as the other SBA programs. We also funded, importantly, many of the oversight efforts to continue to make sure that anybody who committed fraud with the pandemic relief programs, that we track them down, as well as any fraud through SBA loans. So it's a mix of very important provisions. I just want to also mention some of the legacy riders, one that's become especially important these days, and it relates to ensuring that the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the director of that office, has the authority to withhold funding from the World Anti-Doping Agency. For those of you who've been closely following the Olympics, you know that in the last Summer Olympics, there was a big scandal. A number of Chinese swimmers tested positive for doping, but the World Anti-Doping Agency kept this quiet. It did not deal with it in a transparent manner. So we want to make sure that the United States, our key person there, our point person, clearly has the authority to withhold American funding until we're satisfied that athletes are competing on a fair playing field. Not just American athletes, but athletes from around the world. That's been a provision that we added in the committee a number of years ago. We've kept it. I will point out to my colleagues that there are a number of legacy riders in this particular subcommittee that I strongly oppose. I would like to get rid of them. There are all sorts of restrictions placed on the District of Columbia, for example. I don't think it's Congress's business to get into, how they regulate certain areas. That said, in the interests of moving forward, we have not tried to strip those provisions from this bill because they're legacy riders. One amendment that I will offer and withdraw is similar to what I did last year, which relates to the courts. Because I believe that we need an enforceable code of ethics at the Supreme Court. I think recent events have shown why that's so important. I think this should be a nonpartisan issue. And so like last year, I will offer but withdraw an amendment that requires the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, to have an enforceable ethics policy. But because we did not get bipartisan agreement on that wording, I'm not going to insist on a vote. So let me close there, and again, thank all the members of our subcommittee who participated and all the members of the full committee who have offered amendments in this process that are included, the ones that are included in the manager's amendment.
Senator Hagerty.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Madam Vice Chair for your leadership. The committee has now reported 11 bipartisan bills favorably to the floor, and that's an impressive feat. I want to start with an observation. Currently, our country is on an unsustainable fiscal path. We can't continue to spend more than we collect. While the spending that this committee oversees, discretionary spending, is not the main reason for our fiscal problems, it's often the easiest to blame. And ironically, it's the type of spending that will be crowded out by other unavoidable obligations if Congress doesn't get our fiscal house in order. According to the Congressional Budget Office, our debt is growing faster than the economy, and our net interest payments on the debt are bigger than our entire defense budget. That means we'll be paying more in interest payments on our debt than our own national security. Soon, the interest payments will exceed all 12 of these bills combined. Growing interest payments will inevitably force either more discretionary spending cuts or more debt, which will only compound the problem. This simply cannot continue forever. We must voluntarily get our fiscal house in order while we can, or the markets will force our hand down the road, and the outcome, I can assure you, will not be pretty. I'm pleased to join Senator Van Hollen today in presenting the fiscal year 2025 committee recommendation for the Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Act. I want to thank Senator Van Hollen and his staff, Jen Becker, Diana Hamilton, Maddie Dunn, Maria Calderon, and Peyton Thomas for working in a bipartisan manner with me and my staff, Dan Brandt and Winnie Chang, throughout the process. The subcommittee hosted 2 hearings this year and received requests from 58 senators that we were able to accommodate. The bill before us today is the result of tough bipartisan negotiations and compromises by both sides. It's a constructive step toward successfully negotiating a final bill with the House. While no one got everything they wanted, the bill includes a host of important provisions that improve the efficiency and operations of the federal government, protect U.S. economic competitiveness, and enhance service for our constituencies. I want to highlight some of the most important provisions in the bill. First, the bill increases funding for the judicial branch, including an $11 million increase for the security and protection for Supreme Court justices. Further, the bill freezes the discretionary budget for the IRS for the 3rd consecutive fiscal year. Third, this bill continues for a 2nd consecutive year hiring freezes at the Securities and Exchange Commission and rejects a $414 million increase requested by the President's budget, while including several key oversight provisions for the SEC's rulemaking process to ensure the public has meaningful input and that proposed rules are based on robust economic analysis. The bill includes critical funding to combat the fentanyl crisis that's killing thousands of Americans every year. This bill also includes critical investments at the Department of Treasury. Finally, while this is an important step, I want to be very clear that I don't support everything that's included here. There's still issues that we need to address, and I look forward to working with Chairman Van Hollen and our counterparts in the House of Representatives to solve these issues during the conference. Generally, I think there's too much emergency designated spending spread across these bills. Spending designated as an emergency is exempt from the discretionary spending limits. For a spending priority to be truly an emergency, it should be necessary, it should be urgent, it should be unforeseen, and it should be not permanent. Some of the spending in these bills don't meet that criteria. However, my main concern is the $6.6 billion budget gimmick in this bill that proposes to take phantom savings from the Children's Health Insurance Program. To my knowledge, it's the first time that this offset has been included in the FSGG spending bill. It doesn't belong here. The reason I call this a gimmick is because it pretends to cut spending that will never be spent, and then it turns around and spends that on something that's made up savings on something else. In conference, it's my aim to replace this gimmick with real savings. For example, mandatory funds from the IRS enforcement account that were rescinded last year on a bipartisan basis. Notwithstanding this concern, given the many positive elements of this bill and the importance of moving the bill forward through regular order through a conference process with the House, I support this bill today, and I thank my colleagues for their support.
I want to thank Senator Van Hollen, Senator Hagerty for your work on this. For the information of all the committee members, we will have to report this bill out. We will do so as soon as we have members here. And we have a manager's package that we need to make some changes on. We are currently in the process of having that reprinted. It's going to take a few minutes, so with the indulgence of everyone, we're going to kind of go out of order here. I'm going to allow anyone who wishes to speak on this amendment or offer an amendment, and we will vote as soon as we are able to do that. So if everybody could just pack their patience here for a few minutes, we'll work our way through this. So with that, are there any members who wish to speak to this bill or to speak to an amendment that they will offer as soon as we're able to do that technically? Senator Rubio.
Madam Chair, yeah, let me discuss my amendment that I want us to take up, and it's the one titled USMCA Rules of Origin Requirement. So as you know, under the USMCA, it says that for a vehicle to cross our border duty-free, 65 or 75% of that vehicle's value has to result from manufacturing in North America. And 40 or 45% of the vehicle's value has to be produced by workers earning at least $16 per hour. This is a protection for American workers, and it also ensures that, you know, the agreement is about production in North America. That's who our trade is with. Unfortunately, that requirement is not included in some of the credits and subsidies that exist for electric car manufacturing. And so what my amendment would do is it would basically say that if the federal government's going to buy one of these vehicles, or the purchase is going to be subsidized with taxpayer dollars, it needs to meet this minimum rule of origin requirement in the USMCA, our agreement with Mexico and Canada in particular. And the reason why this is so important is because we know that Chinese automakers are trying to wipe out automakers all over the world, and one of the loopholes they have found is to be able to purchase entities and move their manufacturing capability to Mexico, where they can build these cars to their benefit and then use the USMCA loophole to flood our market the way they're trying to flood the European market right now with their electric vehicles. I just don't think we should be paying for it. We shouldn't be subsidizing it. We shouldn't be buying it with government dollars, and we certainly shouldn't be subsidizing with taxpayer dollars. So all this does is it basically closes that loophole by stipulating that any vehicle purchased using funds appropriated by this bill, or any vehicle subsidized by the Clean Vehicle Credit or the used Clean Vehicle Credit, has to meet these USMCA requirements. It's something that, for example, auto workers have asked of the administration, and I think it should be part of our bill. So I hope we'll have a vote on that as soon as it's appropriate.
Senator Rubio, thank you for that, and with your indulgence, all of the committee, thank you for your patience. I'm now going to turn to Senator Collins to move the bill. We will vote on the bill. Senator Van Hollen, you have a manager's package we will approve, and then Senator Rubio, we will return to debate on your amendment. So with that, I will turn to Vice Chair Collins.
Madam Chair, I move that the committee report favorably in the original bill making appropriations for financial services and general government for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and for other purposes, provided that the bill be subject to amendment and that the bill be consistent with its budget allocation, provided further that the chair of the committee or the chair of the subcommittee reporting the original bill be authorized to offer the substance of the original bill as a committee amendment in the nature of a substitute to the House companion measure.
Thank you. Without objection, we will now vote on the bill. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Durbin.
Aye.
Senator Reed.
Aye.
Senator Tester. Senator Shaheen. Senator Merkley. Senator Coons. Senator Schatz. Senator Baldwin. Senator Murphy. Senator Manchin.
Senator Manchin.
Aye.
Senator Van Hollen.
Aye.
Senator Heinrich.
Aye.
Senator Peters. Senator Sinema. Senator Collins.
Aye.
Senator McConnell.
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Graham. Senator Moran. Senator Hoban. Senator Bozeman. Senator Capito. Senator Kennedy. Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Haggerty.
Aye.
Senator Britt. Senator Rubio. Senator Fisher. Senator Murray.
Aye. On this bill, there are 27 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is agreed to.
Madam Chair, as a courtesy to the leader, Senator McConnell has asked to be recorded as present voting aye on the Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Bill. I ask that the committee grant this request, as it would not set a formal precedent, nor would it change any vote outcomes.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator Van Hollen, I will turn to you to offer the manager's package that's now before us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to offer the manager's package that was just circulated to all senators. The provisions have been cleared on both sides, and I ask the committee to adopt the manager's package by a voice vote.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the manager's amendment? Is there an objection? Without objection, it is agreed to. Senator Rubio, you will now officially offer your amendment.
Yeah, so I'd like to offer my amendment as described a few minutes ago, the USMCA Rules of Origin requirements.
Are there any senators who wish to speak to this
Madam
amendment?
Chair, I mean, if I
Senator
could, and
Hall.
then I'm going to defer to Senator Manchin here. And Senator Manchin, together with Senator Tester, has a provision in the manager's amendment that addresses many of the concerns without doing great damage. Because as we review this amendment, it would essentially end the tax credit provisions for the EV program. And according to at least the Commerce Committee analysis, essentially also prohibit the federal government from purchasing most, if not all, EVs that had qualified for these credits. So, look, we all recognize, which is why we put into the Inflation Reduction Act provisions for domestic content, especially with respect to the critical mineral supply chain for EV batteries. But what this would do is kill the whole program. So if you're worried about China right now, if you're worried about China, I'm afraid the Rubio amendment will end up helping China, because by killing the U.S. EV industry and the market, it will just open the door even further to China, which is all we know is trying to flood the market with those. So by killing the incentives for under the Inflation Reduction Act for electric vehicles, you're going to essentially do a big favor to China. I'm now going to defer, Madam Chair, to Senator Manchin, who's done a lot of work on this.
Well, first of all, you all know my concern about how the Treasury has been interpreting and implementing the rules and the law the way we passed it, the IRA. This has, I know that Senator Rubio has USMCA, but it has also Section 45W, Title 26, which is the IRA. And the IRA is a good piece of legislation if it follows of what we passed. The bottom line is we've had problems with Treasury implementing something they didn't pass. They're not basically following the law that we passed. So I am very appreciative that this chairman and this ranking member, and both in the manager's package, have accepted mine and Senator Tester's amendment that puts strong language for Treasury to get back on track, do their job, stay with it, and we'll be able to have a reliable supply chain for EVs that basically has manufacturing in the United States. We're all seeing this happening in all parts of this country right now. And I also thank Senator Rubio for acknowledging the concern we have with Treasury implementation. This puts it back on track. So I will be voting in opposition to this amendment, because the chair and ranking member already agreed to our amendment, Senator Tester's and my amendment, the manager's package, that makes clear that we have the concerns, and also we have the direction that we have with the Treasury to get back on track and do its job. So with that, I would encourage a no vote.
The senator has requested a vote on this amendment.
May I just respond briefly before we vote on my amendment? And I'll be as brief as I possibly can. This is a very simple amendment. It just says that if you want to make electric cars in in Mexico, that it has to meet the requirements of USMCA in terms of being tariff-free to enter the country. That's what free trade agreements are. We have a free trade agreement with Canada and with Mexico. And it says that we're not going to spend federal dollars, and we're not going to subsidize the purchase of vehicles that don't meet that standard. As far as helping, I don't know how this amendment would help the Chinese. They are the only nation on earth capable of exploiting this loophole. They're the only nation on earth capable of flooding, as they are attempting to do, the Mexican manufacturing sector, not just with the components and the materials necessary to build these cars, but to actually build them themselves. So what we're talking about here is the Chinese are going to set up factories in Mexico, owned by them. They are going to produce these things to their benefit through their heavily subsidized industry, and they're going to push it into the United States, and we're going to pay for it with taxpayer money, tariff-free. It's a very simple amendment. So I don't get it, but we're going to have a vote on it.
The senator has requested a vote on this amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Durbin?
No.
Senator Reed?
No.
Senator Tester?
No by proxy.
Senator Shaheen? Senator Merkley? Senator Coons? Senator Schatz? Senator Baldwin? Senator Murphy? Senator Manchin? Senator Van Hollen? Senator Heinrich? Senator Peters? Senator Sinema? Senator Collins,
Aye.
Senator McConnell,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Murkowski. Senator Graham,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Moran. Senator Hoven,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Bozeman. Senator Capito. Senator Kennedy. Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Haggerty.
Aye.
Senator Britt. Senator Rubio. Senator Fisher. Senator Murray.
No. On this vote, there are 14 ayes, 15 nays. The amendment is not agreed to. Is there any other member who wishes to speak to this bill or to offer an amendment? Seeing none, this bill will now be reported as amended. Are there any other senators who wish to speak? I want to thank all of our members today for their patience and their persistence and getting us to this point in this markup. We now only have one bill remaining, which we are going to work very hard to get ready to mark up when we come back. I'm pleased to say we already have passed 11 of our 12 bills and have done so with the support of the overwhelming majority of our committee. These bills will send essential resources back to our committees, and they provide a very clear roadmap to fund our government in the coming months as we work to negotiate and pass our final bills with the House. Once again, by coming together in a bipartisan way, the Senate is making its voice heard. With that, the committee is adjourned.